One of the most famous Sasquatch stories from Alberta is the David Thompson story. David Thompson was a surveyor and trader who worked for the Hudson's Bay Company and then for the Northwest Company. Considered one of North America's great pathfinders and surveyors, he's recorded to have traveled over 100,000 kilometers by canoe, horse, or foot in his travels through western North America between 1785 and 1812. In the early fall of 1810, Thompson swung north and eventually followed the Athabasca River to the present-day town site of Jasper, Alberta. After rest and final preparations, he began his journey up the Athabasca to the mouth of the Whirlpool River, where he began his ascension with the intention of crossing the mountains over the Athabasca Pass. Although we can't be sure exactly where, Thompson would record in his journals a curious find of a large track of an unknown animal, just above the mouth of the Whirlpool on January 7, 1811. This is his account from his journal on that day. January 7th, 1811. Continuing our journey in the afternoon, we came on the track of a large animal. The snow was about 6 inches deep in the ice. I measured it. 4 large toes, each of 4 inches in length, to each a short claw. The ball of the foot sunk 3 inches lower than the toes. The hinder part of the foot did not mark well, the length 14 inches by 8 inches in breadth, walking from north to south. And having passed about 6 hours, we were in no humor to follow him. The men and Indians would have it to be a young mammoth, and I held it to be the track of a large old grizzled bear. Yet the shortness of the nails, the ball of the foot, and its great size was not that of a bear. Otherwise, that of a very large, old bear, his claws worn away. This the Indians would not allow. This event must have stayed in Thompson's mind because he again mentions the incident later in his narrative. I now reoccur to what I've already noticed in the early part of last winter. When proceeding up the Athabasca River to cross the mountains, in company with men and 4 hunters, on one of the channels of the river we came to the track of a large animal which measured 14 inches in length by 8 inches in breadth by a tape line. As the snow was about 6 inches in depth, the track was well defined, and we could see it for a full 100 yards from us. This animal was proceeding from north to south. We did not attempt to follow it, for we had no time for it, and the hunters, eager as they are to follow and shoot every animal, made no attempt to follow this beast. For what could the balls of our following guns do against such an animal? Report from old times had made the head branches of this river and the mountains in the vicinity the abode of one or more very large animals, to which I never appeared to give credence. For these reports appeared to arise from the fondness for the marvelous so common to mankind, but the sight of the track of that large beast staggered me. I often thought of it, yet I could never bring myself to believe that such an animal actually existed, but thought it might be the track of some monster bear. David Thompson was not satisfied that the prints he found were those of an old grizzled bear, and his curiosity of the track clearly intrigued him. Always a keen observer, he describes the track in detail, including the depth of the track from front to back, as if puzzling over the weight distribution of the animal as it walked. We should also consider that David Thompson only describes one kind of track, and if the tracks he found were those of a bear, both front and rear paw tracks would have been described at some point. He clearly describes indigenous folklore and what appears to be a healthy respect for the animal that made the track. It should also be noted that Thompson was not one to mention his men in his journals, but on rare occasions when he felt it was necessary to highlight an event, he did so. The fact that his voyagers and both his Métis and indigenous guides refused to follow the tracks farther exemplifies this event. For something like this to stagger David Thompson, a man who had to this point spent 26 years in the wilderness, it must have been quite the sight. Okay, and so that's his whole story. After looking at all this evidence and breaking it down, I do think that this was a Sasquatch footprint. One thing I did find interesting was why he only seemed to describe one footprint, but other than that, the story seems pretty credible. So that is going to be it for this video. Let me know if you like this and what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to get updates on Bigfoot activity, hear other people's reports and stories. And if you've ever seen Bigfoot or encountered Sasquatch, there's a report form on my channel, and there'll also be a link to it in the description below. I will be conducting an expedition later this week, so make sure you subscribe to hear the results from that. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.